Captain Morgan Blackwood had seen a lot in his 63 years of existence. 3 galactic wars, the rise and fall of 17 planetary governments, and that one time when the Rigelian ambassador mistook a cactus for the president of Earth. But nothing compared to the sheer, unadulterated chaos of the Galactic Peace Summit of 2487. "So you're telling me," Blackwood said, taking a long sip from his coffee mug emblazoned with Earth's okayest diplomat, that the Volturi and the Galactic have been at war for over 300 years because they can't agree on the proper way to organize a buffet line? Ambassador Trill, a 7-foot-tall blue humanoid with compound eyes that resembled disco balls, shifted uncomfortably. "It's more complicated than that, Captain Blackwood." "It always is." Blackwood sighed, leaning back in his chair as the massive viewscreen before them displayed the latest casualty reports. Another 3 star systems lost. Billions of lives gone in an instant. The grand concourse of the Intergalactic United Species headquarters buzzed with activity. Representatives from over 200 alien civilizations scurried, slithered, or floated from one meeting to another, their translators creating a cacophony of overlapping languages. Blackwood had been dragged out of retirement for this, the final attempt to prevent total galactic collapse. "The Volturi are threatening to deploy their Sun-Eaters again," Trill whispered, mandibles clicking with anxiety. "And the Galactic have responded by mobilizing their planet cracker fleet." "Great. Wonderful." Blackwood drained his coffee. "So basically, we're all screwed unless someone can get these idiots too." The emergency klaxons cut him off mid-sentence. The massive viewscreen flickered and switched to a live feed of a distant star system. Blackwood and Trill watched in horror as an entire planet shattered like glass, its fragments spinning away into the void. "Make that 4 star systems," Blackwood muttered, feeling the weight of the galaxy pressing down on his shoulders. "Looks like humanity's going to have to step in after all." "The fundamental issue," explained Dr. Theo Nakamura, xenobiologist, and the most socially awkward human in the known universe, is that none of these species are built to understand each other. He gestured wildly at his holographic display, which showed detailed anatomies of the 3 main combatants in the endless galactic war. Lieutenant Jenny Havoc Rodriguez, a compact woman with more combat decorations than most small armies, snorted and continued cleaning her sidearm. "The Volturi," Nakamura continued, pushing his glasses up his nose, "evolved from a coral-like species. They're perfectly logical, but they have no concept of emotion. Their entire civilization is built on cold, hard facts." The hologram shifted to show a tall, willowy alien with crystalline skin that reflected light in mesmerizing patterns. "They make Vulcans look like emotional train wrecks," Blackwood added, helping himself to more coffee. "Precisely. Then we have the Galactic." The hologram changed to display a muscular reptilian creature covered in natural armor plates. "Warriors to the core. They value honor above everything, even life itself. But their version of honor is incomprehensible to most species." Rodriguez finally looked up. "Yeah, I remember. You're supposed to spit in their food to show respect, right?" "Actually, you're supposed to," Nakamura began, but Blackwood cut him off with a raised hand. "Let's not go there. What about the meeplings?" The hologram switched again, showing a small, adorable creature with 6 eyes and tentacle-like appendages. "Technological geniuses," Nakamura said, "but they suffer from severe anxiety disorders. The entire species. They've created weapons that could end the war in seconds, but they're too terrified to use them. So we've got emotionless logic robots, honor-obsessed lizards, and anxiety-ridden octopus nerds," Rodriguez summarized. "No wonder they can't stop killing each other." A new figure entered the briefing room, tall, elegant, with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed with inner fire. Admiral Ka Zorel, leader of the Volturi war fleet, and the being responsible for more deaths than any other living creature in the galaxy. "You forgot to mention the real problem," Ka Zorel said, her voice like ice crystals forming in the air. None of them understand the concept of necessity. Blackwood eyed the Admiral warily. She had agreed to this meeting under the protection of diplomatic immunity, but that didn't mean she wouldn't find a loophole if it suited her. 300 years of war, Rodriguez said. Trillions dead. Hundreds of worlds destroyed. And for what? For peace, Zorro replied simply. True, lasting peace. Yeah, Blackwood muttered. Nothing says peace like reducing entire solar systems to cosmic dust. The Admiral's glowing eyes fixed on him. Your species is young, Captain. You don't understand the complexities of galactic politics. Maybe that's exactly why we're here, Blackwood said, meeting her gaze without flinching. Sometimes you need a fresh perspective to see that you're all being complete idiots. Absolutely not. The Galactic ambassador, General Thrake, slammed his massive fist on the conference table. Humans are barbarians. They still eat dead animal flesh. They wage war against their own kind. And their music, added Ambassador Pip of the Meeplings, all 6 eyes blinking nervously. Have you heard what they call death metal? It gave my third cousin 17 separate anxiety attacks. Blackwood leaned back in his chair, exchanging glances with Rodriguez and Nakamura. The emergency council chamber was packed with representatives from the major galactic powers, and every single one of them looked horrified at the prospect of humanity taking a leading role in peace negotiations. Look, Blackwood said, I get it. We're the new kids on the block. Earth only achieved faster-than-light travel a century ago. We still haven't figured out how to make our toasters stop burning one side of the bread. They admit technological inferiority, stated the Volturi representative, a being named Eeks whose crystalline body refracted light into dazzling patterns. This is consistent with our assessment. But here's the thing, Blackwood continued, leaning forward. We might be primitive by your standards, but we've got something none of you have. Poor hygiene? Suggested Thraka with a sneer. Reality television? Pip whispered, trembling slightly. Adaptability, Blackwood said firmly. Humans are messy, emotional, logical, honorable, and anxious all rolled into one. We understand all of you because we contain pieces of each of your psychologies. Dr. Nakamura nervously stepped forward, dropping his datapad in the process. As he bent to retrieve it, he knocked over a glass of water, which spilled across the table and onto General Thrake's ceremonial armor. The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew that to dishonor a Grazik's battle regalia was grounds for immediate execution. I'm so sorry, Nakamura stammered, his face pale. It was an accident, I swear. To everyone's shock, General Thrake began to laugh, a deep, rumbling sound like distant thunder. The human trembles like a meepling but apologizes like a Grazik. Perhaps there is something to your claims, Captain Blackwood. Rodriguez stepped forward, her military bearing impeccable. We've studied your war for decades. You've tried logical solutions, honorable solutions, technological solutions. None have worked because you're all speaking different languages, metaphorically speaking. What exactly do you propose? Admiral Zoral asked, her glowing eyes narrowed suspiciously. Blackwood grinned. Something radical. Something that goes against every diplomatic protocol in the galaxy. He paused for effect. We're going to throw a party. This is completely undignified, Admiral Zoral hissed as Captain Blackwood handed her a glass filled with an iridescent blue liquid. It's called a quantum cosmopolitan, Blackwood explained. Earth vodka mixed with distilled Volturi crystal fruit. You'll love it, or hate it. Either way you'll feel something, which I'm guessing doesn't happen often. The grand ballroom of the Intergalactic United Species headquarters had been transformed. Gone were the formal seating arrangements and sterile lighting. Instead, Earth-style party decorations hung from the ceiling. A bar staffed by both human and alien mixologists occupied one corner, and in the center, A dance floor waited expectantly. Dancing is a waste of energy, Eeks stated, watching with confusion as Lieutenant Rodriguez taught a group of junior Volturi officers how to do the Macarena. That's kind of the point, Blackwood said. Not everything has to have a purpose. Sometimes the waste is the purpose. Across the room, Dr. Nakamura was engaged in animated conversation with 3 Meepling scientists. Remarkably, they seemed to be hanging on his every word, their anxiety temporarily forgotten. What is he telling them? Ka-Zor-El asked. Earth jokes, Blackwood replied. Specifically, science puns. Apparently, bad humor transcends species barriers. Why did the proton go to therapy? One of the Meeplings squeaked before dissolving into what appeared to be laughter. Because it had a negative self-image. General Throck approached, carrying what looked like an entire roast turkey. Human food is glorious, he bellowed. It requires teeth. My ancestors would approve. As the evening progressed, something remarkable happened. The strict divisions between species began to blur. A group of Volturi and Galactic found themselves engaged in a heated but surprisingly civil debate about efficient battle tactics. Meeplings were teaching humans their technological secrets, while humans introduced them to the concept of chill. Then disaster struck. Dr. Nakamura, carrying a tray of drinks, tripped over his own feet and went sprawling. The drinks flew through the air in slow motion before landing squarely on Admiral Ka-Zor-El's immaculate uniform. The room froze. Ka-Zor-El looked down at the spreading stain, then up at Nakamura's horrified face. In 300 years, she said slowly, no one has dared to soil my ceremonial attire. Nakamura swallowed hard. I'm terribly sorry, Admiral. It was an accident. To everyone's amazement, Ka-Zor-El's face cracked into what might have been a smile. An accident. Yes, like the accident that started this war, perhaps. What? Blackwood asked, suddenly alert. The Galactic delegation, 3 centuries ago, Ka-Zor-El said quietly. They arrived late to the treaty signing because their ship was delayed by an ion storm. We Volturi interpreted it as a deliberate insult. General Throck's eyes widened. And we believed the Volturi's cold reception was a challenge to our honor. You're telling me, Blackwood said incredulously, that this entire galaxy-spanning war started because of a misunderstanding about punctuality? The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Incoming fire. Rodriguez shouted as the first explosions rocked the station. Everyone get down. The peace conference had been going so well. Too well, apparently. Someone in Blackwood had a pretty good idea who had decided that peace wasn't in their best interest. Rogue Volturi warships, Admiral Ka-Zor-El confirmed, checking her communication device. Led by my former second-in-command, Commander Vex. He always was a fanatic. The ceiling of the ballroom partially collapsed, sending delegates scrambling for cover. Blackwood grabbed the nearest communicator. This is Captain Blackwood. All delegates proceed to Evacuation Bay 7. This is not a drill. The evacuation bay only has enough ships for half the delegates, Eeks pointed out with typical Volturi practicality. Then we'll have to share, Blackwood replied, helping a fallen Meepling to its feet. Rodriguez, take point. Nakamura, help the wounded. As they made their way through the damaged corridors of the station, another explosion sent them all tumbling. When the dust cleared, they found their path blocked by debris. Alternative route through the maintenance tunnels, General Thrake suggested, already prying open an access panel. We Galactic know all possible battle paths. Good thinking, Blackwood acknowledged. Lead the way. Brain. The unlikely procession Volturi, Galactic, Meeplings, humans, and a dozen other species crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnels as the station continued to break apart around them. We're not going to make it, Pip wailed, all 6 eyes streaming with tears. My anxiety prediction algorithms give us a 97.3% chance of death. Never tell me the odds, Rodriguez growled, helping the little alien along. They finally reached Evacuation Bay 7, only to find Commander Vex and a squad of rogue Volturi soldiers waiting for them. Admiral Ka-Zoro, Vex said coldly. You betray our cause for these emotions? I betray nothing, Ka-Zoro replied. I simply learn new information. The war is based on a misunderstanding, Blackwood interjected. It's time to end it. Lies. Vex raised his weapon. The war continues because it must. Because it serves those who truly rule. And who might that be? Blackwood asked, stalling for time as he noticed Rodriguez quietly positioning herself behind a cargo container. The weapons manufacturers, Vex replied. The resource barons. The political elite who maintain power through fear. They exist in all our societies. Classic, Blackwood muttered. The military-industrial complex. Some things never change, even across galaxies. Rodriguez chose that moment to strike, launching herself at Vex with a battle cry that would have made a Galactic proud. The distraction allowed General Thrake and his warriors to disarm the other rogue soldiers. As the station shuddered around them, Blackwood realized they were running out of time. We need to evacuate now, but Ix was right, we don't have enough ships. Actually, Nakamura said hesitantly, I've been working with the Meeplings on something. He turned to Pip. Show them. Pip, still trembling but with newfound determination, pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Outside the viewport, a massive ship seemed to materialize from nowhere. Meepling phase shift technology, Pip explained, combined with human inspiration. We call it the Hope Engine. It can carry everyone. As they boarded the vessel, enemies and allies alike, Blackwood realized that something unprecedented was happening. The galaxy's oldest conflict was ending not with a grand treaty or a decisive battle, but with a spilled drink, a shared joke, and a desperate escape. 6 months later, Captain Morgan Blackwood stood before the newly formed Galactic Cooperative Council, trying not to laugh at the sight before him. Volturi delegates sat next to Galactic warriors, their former enmity replaced by grudging respect. Meeplings buzzed around without their usual anxiety, occasionally high-fiving humans with their tentacles. The Cooperative Peace Treaty has been ratified by all major powers, announced Ix, who now served as the Council's first chairperson. The war that burned for 3 centuries has been extinguished. Applause filled the chamber, a human custom that had caught on quickly among the other species. None of this would have been possible without the human delegation, General Thrake declared. They showed us that our differences were not weaknesses but strengths when properly combined. Admiral Ka-Zoro, now the head of the combined peacekeeping fleet, nodded. The humans' unique approach, what they call winging it, proved surprisingly effective. We've learned that logic without emotion is empty, Ix stated. And honor without flexibility is brittle. And anxiety without action is paralyzing, added Pip, who had become something of a motivational speaker among the Meeplings. Blackwood stepped up to the podium. On behalf of Earth, I thank you for allowing us to help. We're young and we make mistakes, lots of them, but sometimes it takes an outsider to see the obvious. The obvious being that we were all being manipulated by corrupt officials and war profiteers? Rodriguez whispered from behind him. Among other things, Blackwood murmured back before addressing the council again. The galaxy now enters an unprecedented era of peace and cooperation. The stars themselves can breathe easier. Later at the celebration reception, Dr. Nakamura approached Blackwood with a concerned expression. Captain, I've been analyzing the peace treaty and I've noticed something. What's that, Doc? Well, in Section 27, subsection B, paragraph 4, humanity has been designated as the official diplomatic mediators for all future intergalactic disputes. Blackwood nearly choked on his drink. All of them? But there are millions of potential conflicts out there. Indeed, Nakamura said, the galaxy has figured out that humans are uniquely qualified to solve their problems. They want us everywhere. Rodriguez joined them, grinning mischievously. I just taught the meeplings how to play poker. They're naturals, those multiple eyes are perfect for card counting. Blackwood shook his head, watching as General Throck attempted to teach a group of Volturi the chicken dance. So that's it, he sighed. We stopped the greatest war in galactic history, exposed a conspiracy spanning hundreds of worlds, and brought peace to the stars. And all it took was a party, some spilled drinks, and nearly getting blown up, Rodriguez added cheerfully. I suppose there's just one question left, Nakamura said, pushing his glasses up his nose. What happens now that the galaxy is at peace but has to deal with humanity's other quirks? As if on cue, an alarm sounded. A meepling rushed up to them, all 6 eyes wide with panic. Urgency. The Volturi delegation has discovered human reality television. They're binge-watching something called The Real Housewives of Alpha Centauri and discussing emotions. Blackwood looked at his teammates and shrugged. Here we go again. The galaxy might be at peace, but with humans involved, it'll never be boring.